It's Texas football talk
from those who wore the burnt orange.
Welcome to Longhorn Lowdown. Now here's Todd Hunt, Stevie Lee, and Stu Myrick.
Welcome back to Longhorn Lowdown. Stu Myrick, Todd Hunt, Stevie Lee with you for another week. And we are joined by one of the prettiest people I've ever known in radio. Only because we're the same age, but he looks 10 years younger than me, which, I'm impressed and jealous at the same time.
And I look 10 years older than him,
That's right. You look 10 years older than him.
Yeah.
Of course, he is a proud member of DBU, pre-DBU. He was one of the men that laid the foundation for DBU at Texas. All Southwest Conference in 1990, several years in the NFL, one of the best radio people I've known, and now, as I told him before we started, the star of CBS Sports and all their college football coverage. And as Chad Hastings, my friend Chad Hastings says, the last man to wear number 60 for a full season, he is the incomparable Brian Jones. What's up, BJ?
Hey, Stu, you got it, my man. Now we were proud of those linebackers. Now when I was there as well, you're right. The long legacy of DBs, but we had quite a good legacy of linebackers. I know it's trickled off a little bit here of late, but hopefully they can start generating some more Derek Johnsons of the world.
True. You had some fantastic teammates there back in the 89-90. Todd Hunt, of course, one of them. But you had guys like Stanley Richard and all those guys. So I know you come from LA, as you like to say, the Lubbock area. So talk about growing up in Lubbock and going to high school at Lubbock Dunbar and what it was like to be there and play football back then, in the late 80s and such.
Well, I was grew up P.O. We couldn't afford the other O and the R, and just grateful that I grew up in a country that had a social safety net. And football was king there in West Texas. I grew up during the Permian era in Friday Night Lights, so we were inundated with that. And of course, in Lubbock, as well as Odessa, there's some pretty good football, and just knew at a very young age, playing Pop Warner, started playing competitively at 10 years old, that I love football. Now, that being said, back when I was growing up, you played everything. You go from sport to sport. As soon as football was over, we were playing hoops. As soon as that was over, it was track or baseball.
Yep.
But, just growing up there and getting to Lubbock Dunbar, I recall there was one particular player that I was so afraid of as I was transitioning from junior high, as we called it back then. It's middle school now. As I was transitioning, there was a running back, and he was a stud, all-state. Everyone was recruiting him. Nebraska was hot on him, and Larry Green. And the whole summer leading up to my first year of high school football, I was thinking, how the hell am I going to hit this dude? I mean, he had those Earl Campbell thighs and just strong as an ox and ripped. And I was like, that was my whole focus that summer. How am I going to hit Larry Green? And I also recall first time I hit him, my body didn't disintegrate. So I said, okay, I lived through that. But there's another indelible moment that has stuck with me. That first practice, I just remember leading on that field house. And this is a testament of what sports teaches you and how it can carry you through life. I remember leaning on the field house and I can't do this. It was hot. I was out of shape. Back then, you didn't do any training, man. You thought you were training. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it through this. All my buddies who were freshmen, sophomores like myself, they were throwing up. So somehow I got past that moment of contemplating quitting, and the rest is history, as they say. But fond memories, growing up in Lubbock and around football, and especially there at Dunbar. My high school coach, Jerry Lee, is still we're still good friends. He's like a father figure to me. I go and speak at his school in New Mexico every February. So great memories, man. That was fun.
Brian, recruiting back in the day when you and I were being recruited versus now, it's a totally different world. So
my question to you is, what was some of the things? How did you know? Hey, I'm going to be going to play for X school or these opportunities. When did it first hit you, and/or when the coach either give you a letter and say, "Hey, Brian, we got this for you." How did that happen for you? How did that one day?
That's a great question, because I recall heading into and I really didn't know how the processes, what it entailed, but I just recall heading into my junior year, I hadn't gotten any letters, and I'd written all these letters myself to different colleges, UT, Alabama, and other schools. And I was like, well, nobody, I must not be good. And I only have 1 year high school football under my belt. I don't know why I was thinking this manner, but I was prepared. I was going to reach out to any and everyone and see if they'd come knocking. Lo and behold, right after my junior year, man, my first 2 letters, Notre Dame and the hated Texas A&M Aggies. So I received those 2 letters, and I was like, wow, okay, I can tear up and throw away everything that I put together over here is my machinations of getting to a prestigious college. So when I got those 2 letters, Todd, man, I knew we were cooking with gas at that point, man. And it just kept coming on a cycle after that. I mean, it was every day the mailbox was full of something. And so that was cool. But I remember when UCLA, Bill Reese, whose son now he was play quarterback at Notre Dame. He's now the new offensive coordinator there at Notre Dame. When Bill Reese was the recruiting coordinator at UCLA, he came to one of our high school practices. Dude, I tried to kill everybody on my team. I was going nuts. I mean, I was hitting ball carriers, trainers, anybody in the way. You got to show out. UCLA's in the house. I mean, I went nuts. I look back on that, my buddies tell me, man, we hated you that day. I was like, I got impressed, right?
Right.
So, when that happens, when you get a school of that stature that comes to town, and back then, UCLA was going to the Rose Bowl each and every year. And so that occurs, man, and then you really know it's happening for you. And you can say the same about Switzer coming as well, because Oklahoma was owning the Big 8, just like they own the Big 12 now. And so they come splashing all their big rings, Coach Charlie North. So that's when it really, really hit home, man.
So why did you decide? Well, first of all, you taking recruiting trips? Because back then the deal was to take all your recruiting trips, even though you knew where you were going to go, and then afterwards say, hey, I want to go here. Today they say I'm going here and be done. So.
Right. Exactly. It's crazy, man.
I wouldn't do that.
Trips. Go see something, right?
Right.
But maybe they got more money than we did. We had to
I did. You're right.
They weren't Poe.
I was like, I'm going, right. Well, exactly. So
I came in. I'm sorry. I came in 2000, and the culture that we had coming in was taking all your trips. Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was your UCLA trip. Do you take a UCLA trip?
Oh, heck yeah, man. Come on.
I think he's getting to that one.
Yeah, well, you know what? Well, Stephen, you're from Dallas, right?
I'm from Shreveport.
I'm from Shreveport. Well, it's close enough to Dallas. Everybody from Shreveport go to Dallas. Yeah.
I hear it all the time, man.
Yeah,
exactly. East Texas.
I-20, just take it, baby. You're going to get there. I'm a lifelong Longhorn. Love the Longhorn. I would cry every weekend, any weekend that the Longhorns or the Cowboys lost, I was in tears, man. So I grew up a Longhorn fan. But when we were coming out, and Ty, you remember this, because I got you by a couple years. That's when the Southwest Conference at the time was in turmoil. SMU got the death penalty, and everyone else was being investigated. Texas A&M, Texas was even under the microscope. TCU was just snitched on itself. So it was crazy, man. And UCLA was hot, so my first trip was to UCLA, middle of December. And as you know, in West Texas, we get all 4 seasons. Sometimes you can get them in one day. And, I leave freezing, LA, Lubbock area to go to the real LA, Los Angeles, and it's 75, 80 degrees out there in the middle of December. Everything is pristine and clean, and you got Hollywood and Beverly Hills, man, as Stevie Lee will tell you. And I was just blown away, man. It was incredible. So I had a great trip. Now, my first host, he took all the money and gave me about $5 and put me on or somebody else. Tommy, what's Tommy's last name? I can't even think of his last name. Oh, man. he's no longer with us, but he was a heck of a player. And so, I go to a concert. I'm ended up at some party where they're doing all kinds of stuff I'd only seen on TV. And
Wow.
I think I can hang out here, man. So I had a great trip there. But as you guys said, I took all the other trips, man. My trip to Georgia was great. I fly into Hartsfield-Jackson. They helicoptered me from there to Athens. That was cool. Iowa was hot at the time. Matter of fact, they were getting ready to play UCLA in the bowl game, in the Rose Bowl. They had won the Big Ten. And I actually was born in Iowa City.
Wow.
And don't ask me how, but that's why I popped out. They played that up, of course, to try to get me to sign with the Hawkeyes. But the cool thing about that trip, late Hayden Fry, great coach, and he flew back with me on my way back home after the weekend of the trip. I actually flew on a private jet with him. They were going to Dallas to do some recruiting. I flew back with him. So we're in the DFW airport, and before I get on my plane back to Lubbock, he gets me on the phone with Gil Brandt at the Dallas Cowboys at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was just like, sure it was a recruiting violation. But it had to be. You can't even put jelly on your toast these days. But man, and he knew I was a big Cowboys fan. He hands me the phone, and it's Gil Brett. I was like, oh my goodness. Still didn't do the trick. I was going to UCLA, but I went to Notre Dame. It was freezing cold, 40 below zero, and I did take a trip because my brother went to TCU, so I took a trip to TCU. Check that out. But I'd already been to UT. I didn't need to waste a trip because I was at the Texas Boys State, that the government association or student council association. So I had taken that.
About it.
And I stayed on campus for about a week. So, I had an extended visit to UT and went, to the weight room and all that and saw everything. So I didn't need to waste a trip on that. But that was where my heart was. But I went to UCLA, man, because of that, coupled with the climate at the time with the Southwest Conference.
So so I want to know, I've never known what happened. Why did you come from there to us? Not that I don't want you. One day you popped up, BJ's here. Who's BJ? Yeah, he's a badass linebacker from UCLA. He transferred and everybody's talking shit about how badass BJ is and BJ this. And you walk around that hairdo with a cockatoo look like, yeah, motherfuckers. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. So anyway, and you got plenty of people to tell you the same thing. But what happened?
I played as a true freshman, made freshman All-American. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. Just running around, with my eyes closed, running into things. And then I had back surgery after that season, that February. And I came back, rehab. That was a long rehab. And I played only 3-4 games the next season, my sophomore year. And the whole time there, I was there, though, I longed to be a Longhorn, man. It was just on my heart. I wanted to be a Texas Longhorn. And even though everything was groovy, I had a blast. And I told Coach Donahue, who was the head coach at the time there, he may have been still the head coach when you were going, Stevie, was he? Or was he gone?
No, it wasn't him. I'll think of the name, though.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who was right after Coach Donahue. But, I thanked him, man. It wasn't you. I had a great time out here. That y'all took excellent care of me. I just always wanted to be a Longhorn, and I still have lifelong friends from those teams. But Texas was calling, man. It was on my heart. What was that Bear Bryant said about Mama called? Same with me in terms of UT.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty awesome. Well, go ahead, Brigid.
You transferred, played in '89 and '90. That was. Definitely, you saw Texas starting to rise again. They'd had a slight dip after that 83-84 season, starting to rise again. 90 with the Shock the Nation tour. That was my freshman year at Texas, too. I just finished my stint in the Army active duty, came to Texas, and I'm watching you and Todd and Peter Gardere and everybody tear up everybody that came on that field. I mean, what was that year like? I've heard stories from Todd, but give me your perspective of the Shock the Nation tour in '90.
Well, Stevie will tell you as well, man. When it's something special, you can sense when something's brewing, and we sensed that. We had some big upsets my junior year, and then we just wet the bed after that. after we lost that game, Todd,
Colorado.
When we lost to Texas Tech, we had them beat.
Oh, yes.
And I forgive you, Paul Bierman, but I really don't.
That came up just the other day, by the way. That's funny.
Third and 2 football fields, and he bites on it out and up, and next thing you know, they hit a touchdown pass, and it's over. And we just come off of wins versus Arkansas, which is a hard place to play, Vietnam, with Quinn Grovey and all those guys, Barry Foster. And we beat Oklahoma. They were ranked. We were not ranked. And so we had some solid wins under our belt, and we felt like things were clicking. And then after that game, it just all fell apart. And then the next season, I think we ended up, 5-6 that year. Yeah. Baylor beat the snot out of us. Oh, my goodness, 50 to something. It was so embarrassing. So that next season, that off season, this is when it all changed. Stevie Lee knows this. You win in that off season, man. You don't win once the season starts. You sink that foundation. And Coach Mac Williams came to us, our head coach, and said, "You guys gonna take ownership of this or what?" That's essentially what he said to the upperclassmen. You gonna take ownership of this? So we started a whole new protocol as far as our training regimen. And they took us out of that nice weight room, which was even nicer when Stevie Lee got there. And they took us out of Dr. Nasser Al-Rashid's weight room, put us in the old weight room underneath the stadium. And you remember that stench, Todd?
It sucked.
Bats under there. You got rats. You got everything under. I mean, and it was so small. You had all of us in there, all 80-something, 90 of us in that small environment, throwing up on each other, spitting on each other, pooping on each other. It was, man.
Stop.
It was similar. You know, it's similar to Rocky. It was Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone, they took him out to L.A. And Apollo Creed had him in his old gym in the hood. Mm-hmm. That's what it was reminiscent of, man. So we went there, got our minds right, got our body right, really became a team, and that was the catalyst for the turnaround that next season. That we go and knock off Penn State on the road, really under the radar, go up there and play a fabulous game, win there, and then after that, it was just – even though we lost the next one, we had a bye week, then we lost to
Colorado.
I take blame for that.
But
I'm still haunted by that game, man. There were some plays, a couple plays I should have made in that game that are still kicking my butt. But we knew it was magic. We knew it was going to be magical. We knew we had a hell of a team, especially going up to Penn State, knocking them off in the manner in which we did, and it just clicked. Everyone was on board. We were family. That was our theme song. We are family.
Yep. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, and we came up with the slogan, whatever it takes, and shock the nation. I'm a big Muhammad Ali fan. So I kept saying that over and over. I watched all these tapes. It was tapes back then. Watched all these tapes on Muhammad Ali, and me and the cast, but we were on the same floor. We got to start, saying shock the nation, and it just took hold, man.
Amazing. That was one of the very first T-shirts I remember buying was the Shock the Nation T-shirt, and had all the different wins, and of course, and I got to imagine the highlight, Houston coming in number 3 in the country.
Oh, that was phenomenal.
And David Klingler was, he was a Heisman favorite, and you guys just kept him on his back the entire game. Seemed like every third play, he was on his back.
They had embarrassed us. When I transferred to Texas, they hadn't beaten A&M, they hadn't beaten Oklahoma. No one was really beat Houston. I mean, Houston was just lighting up the scoreboard on there. I think they put 80-something on SMU when SMU came off the death penalty. And so, that previous season we played in the Astrodome, and I see the old clips now, some of these E360s, not E360, what is it, 30-30s?
Yeah.
Me running around trying to catch that bowling ball, Witherspoon and Andre Ware running from me, who ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. So they were formidable, man. They got this newfangled offense. They're spreading everyone out. But the beautiful thing leading up to that game, my senior year, is that week of installation, that Monday, and Stevie knows this, man. That's when you start worrying about the next game, and they give you the scouting report and what we're gonna ideally this is what we're going to focus on as far as our scheme and our game plan to take on this particular opponent. And I recall our defensive coordinator, Coach Fuller, Leon Fuller, he said, guys, we're not going to come up with anything elaborate. Y'all are good enough. You're big enough. You're fast enough. You're talented enough. We're going to go out there and run our base defense against these cats. Because everyone would try to dial up something exotic. Because, you're so spread out with all these different wide receivers. We didn't huddle because they didn't huddle. We went out there and played base defense, man, and just got after them. And it was beautiful. That was another one of those just fantastical nights where everything clicked and we just would not be denied. And of course, offensively, they matched everything we were doing on the defensive side of the ball because Hadnot had a big night, Peter had a big night,
yep.
Cash twins. So it was a beautiful victory. It was a resounding revenge for us because they've been posting about 60 on us the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I recall I was sitting in the northeast corner of the end zone, in those corner stands, and we got those $5 Randalls now, but I forget what they were called before then. Apple Tree, I think.
Yeah,
you sold those tickets for $5. You go up there, and my God, that was just that. You like you said, it was a magical night as a fan and as a.
I remember because Eric Metcalf had just been drafted, and maybe that was his second year in the league, but they had an off week that week, so he comes down from Cleveland, and his buddy and our buddy Tim McCray, they're thick as thieves, and I remember them being in the locker room, and we were getting ready to walk out for warm up, and just Eric stared me in the eye and said, "Y'all better get him," and I just that focus I had, like, we got this. And some games you just know, we got this. And that's the attitude we pretty much had for every game. Even going into that terrible Cotton Bowl, we were a team that was focused and we knew we could win and we put the work in, and especially that one. I remember Metcalf stopping me, man. I was like, dude, we got this. And rest is history.
Absolutely. What was campus? I mean, we were all on campus then, but for you, campus life. I mean, give me a couple of good, fun stories about teammates. Give us some dirt on Todd, for that matter.
There's no dirt on me. There's more dirt on BJ.
I remember. I will share this. I don't care. I remember we were getting. Whew, I don't know what we had some good stock that one particular night. Next thing I know, we're streaking down the hallway, and Travis Mays is recording, as we would always have somebody always recording our antics, snitching on ourselves like they do nowadays with these cell phones. And I remember the next day I had to make a beeline to Travis's room. Man, give me that video, man. I can't believe video me streaking. I mean, it was like old school, dude. But
where is the video, man?
The funny
where's the video?
We burned that video.
All right, we're gonna make a phone call to Travis Mays.
I will say this: the funniest thing, man. If you ever had any visitors, Bubba Jacks, he was right there on the end of the hallway as I was, and man, that door opened. He was the first one out there, all up in your business, trying to see who it was coming to visit.
Are you coming in there?
Yeah, so nosy, right? And I always had a case of Coors Light, the box, the remnants from the night before outside his door every morning. But it was college. It was fun. We'd have domino games. There'd be arguments. We'd almost have fights. It was college.
Like a family. It's
Yeah,
just like a family.
I remember one night it was me and Shane, the late Shane Dronette. We were about to get into it. And another night it may have been someone else. And those things happen. You're right. One big happy family. Now, a lot of stuff, Stu, I'm not at liberty to share with you. You know.
All right, fine.
It's G13 classified.
Well, you mentioned 60 earlier.
I was going to say, Brian, you obviously have no idea what I did in the Army, but that's okay.
There you go.
So, BJ, you mentioned 60 earlier. So, a lot of folks don't know this, but you, again, are the only African-American that ever wore the number 60 at the University of Texas. Has been retired officially. Well, the first, not the only, the first. I believe Ricky or DJ may have worn it one time or whatever. But
yeah, they wore it in commemorative fashion.
Right, but not you. You the whole year.
Yeah, I'm the last person to have it as its primary number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wore it, both years I played there. That was my number. And
why'd you pick that number?
Because I knew the history of it. And when I transferred, of course, I had to sit out a year. And Britt Hager was wearing it. Yep. And I knew the history of Texas, Johnny Treadwell and Tommy Novus, Jeff Lighting, and then of course you had Britt Hager, and Coach Mac Williams asked me if I wanted that number when I transferred to Texas. I said sure, because they were still basing everything off of my recruiting, and me and Melvin Foster out of Houston were the top 2 linebackers pretty much in the nation. And then, of course, I go to UCLA. He went to Iowa. And then I transferred. So they were basing everything off of that. And while I was still a damn good player, I was coming off back surgery. But anyway, I wanted the number. I get the number after Britt graduates and moves on to the NFL. And, yeah, you're right. The only black person that ever wore it. I probably talked a little bit too much early on my junior year because I didn't – even though I led the team in tackles, I didn't live up to the legacy of that number. But I was aware of those guys who had worn it, man, and to play in that defense, middle backer, which I played all my life, that was definitely cool.
Well, I think you did pretty well wearing it, so don't beat yourself over too long about that one, my man.
Absolutely.
I was much better my senior year. That junior year, my butt was too big. I go out there like, woof.
Had you had any interaction with Tommy Novus, even
yes,
then or since then?
Yes, Tommy.
Talk about that.
Johnny Treadwell would come to practice all the time. Now, Mr. Novus, the late Mr. Novus, was still with the Atlanta Falcons organization, and he would come in every now and then, and I would speak with him. And when I transitioned to the NFL, matter of fact, he brought me in for a couple workouts at times when I was without a team. So I knew Mr. Novus pretty well.
Awesome. Amazing. Let's talk about your transition to the NFL. You were drafted by the Raiders and then traded to the Colts, right?
Well, we can say traded. How about Al Davis said he didn't want me anymore, and the coach said we'll take him.
Wow.
That's called being left on the scrap heap.
Apparently.
And Al did that to me 3 times. I should say Al, Mr. Davis did that to me 3 times, but. Yeah, I went to the Colts, played there 1 year, went back to the Raiders and stayed hurt. Finally played a season over there for a year. Then I spent my last 4 in New Orleans with the Saints, and we weren't nearly as good as they are currently. We fielded some pretty good defenses, but offensively we were always challenged.
Really?
So what did you do to your back? I know you had some issues a little bit when you were at UT, but
yeah, at UCLA I had a fusion. I had a fractured vertebrae, which I played with all season. And don't ask me how. So I had a fusion L5-S1 my lower back, and it was a hell of a rehab, man. It was lengthy, and I actually just had another surgery on my back a year ago this past May, and I feel like I'm 20 again. It was phenomenal. It was needed. It was similar to what the procedure Tiger Woods underwent. And I was suffering from spinal stenosis, the narrowing of the spine. But God, I feel great right now. I haven't felt this good and pain-free in my back. Now, other stuff crops up. You play football. There's always something every morning when you get up. Yep. But as far as my back, gosh, I feel like a new man. My surgeon, Dr. Bruce Abonic, said you're going to feel like you're 20 again. He wasn't lying. I do.
That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. So after you get out of the NFL, you come back, you finish your degree. What was it like when they gave you that T ring?
Listen, the best thing I've ever done was return to UT, and this is when Stevie was playing, and they were damn good. They were winning 10, 11 games every year. Couldn't beat OU, but
it's okay, Stevie. We love you.
I was undefeated against them in a Texas uniform. My first college game was versus Oklahoma. When I was at UCLA, my freshman year, we had to go to Norman, and they beat us like we stole something, man. So I never lost to them in a UT uniform.
Let me ask you this. both of you guys, you and Todd. And what was your record against A&M?
1-4, 1-3.
I was 1-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 4-0 against Oklahoma.
So it's a flip flop.
4-0.
You were 4-0 against that?
Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, that was when A&M went down the tubes pretty quickly too. As I recall.
So I never beat OU, but I never lost to A&M.
Gotcha. Well, that was another. Those two games were great, and we could talk about that. But to answer your question, one of the most profound and better decisions I've ever made was to return to UT, because as you guys know, when your career is over, there's no weaning yourself off of it. It's like a faucet. It just turned off, and it's something you've been doing, 20, 30 years. So I went nuts. NFL spit me out. I moved back to LA. I'm going crazy, partying, blowing money, just trying to figure out who the hell I was. And I remember sitting there and I said, all right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lord. And some said, go take your ass back to school. So I sold everything I owned, man. Everything, and flew to Austin. I called Austin that weekend, that next Monday, and called UT, because the NFL had a program where if you went back, they'd still cover your scholarship. And so that allowed me to come back. And, man, the best decision I've ever made. I had so much fun just being a student, because when you're an athlete, there's so many other responsibilities that are associated with that. And just being a student. Now, I must admit, I didn't enjoy going to the bursar's office. First of all, I didn't even know what the bursar's office was, because they do all that stuff for you. When you're an athlete, everything's done for you. So I had to go do all that, get my books. But, man, I had a blast. And actually, I'm going to brag, I made straight A's when I went back. So that was cool. And that from that, I transitioned into the broadcasting, because Stu, our old boss, lady check writer, Lise Hudson, I'm in Donnie Little's office, and Donnie said, well, they have an opening for the sideline reporter on the radio broadcast. And he calls up Lise, and she said, well, send him over. And I'm got a tank top and flip-flops and shorts. And she said, I don't care. I go over there, and, man, Lise and I hit it off. Next thing you know, I'm doing some shows. But she did say she had already promised the sideline reporting job to someone else. And if I would I was going to be in Austin for at least 2 years anyway. She said if I would carry the parabolic mic, I could be the sideline reporter the next year. You talking about putting your pride in your pocket? I had to carry that parabolic mic, man. So you go from playing to on the sidelines with this dish that everyone gets their sound from.
Do something that I would do.
But it was humbling, and I'm so glad I do it. As my buddy said, if you have nothing in your pocket, put your pride in your pocket.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And I work with Lise today.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, she's at the Horn and
that's right.
Network. So
you tell her I said hello. Lisa's great, and she used to give us so much leeway, and unfortunately, I would take it a little too far at times. One time we were in Dallas for Texas.
Yeah, you
OU,
did.
And I happened to say OU on the air. Yeah, so that next Monday morning was pretty interesting.
And I was going to ask you how you got what led you to radio.
That was it. That was the story.
Yeah.
I'd done some of that stuff. We had a fledgling TV station in my high school. They just started it my senior year, and then I also interned at the local NBC affiliate in Lubbock. So, and my major, of course, was communication. So I'd done some of that stuff, and then playing in NFL. I was always the one had a lot to say. I don't know why they came to me, but they did. So I had a good background as far as talking BS. And then, the situation I just shared with you as far as Lise Hudson and how I got involved in that was the start, man. That right there, that phone call, and I got hooked up with the Zone and started rolling after that. And, did the sideline, coach Mac Brown's TV show, hosted Rick Barnes, basketball coach, his show. And then from there, I transitioned to Fox Sports Southwest. And then from there, I've been up to New York the last 16 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's been fantastic. You were at the Zone back when, I say it was their heyday because that was, it was you and Chad Hastings and Kevin Dunn and then guys like Aaron Hogan and Bucky Godbolt.
Yeah.
And you were there. You were also there. Were you there with Hugh Lewis and John Madani and those guys as well?
When I first started, Hugh was there, right? Yeah.
Right. So John Madani he's the one that got me, opened the door for me. So
John's a good guy. Yeah. See, they had promised John the sideline reporting job. That's why I had to carry the parabolic mic.
Yeah. Well, that's, Eric Raines does that, I think.
Yeah. Eric started doing it.
Yeah.
And, tell Eric I said hello. Good dude.
I sure will.
But,
he is.
I look back on that with fondness. It humbles you, and no one gave me this broadcasting career, just like no one gave us our football careers. No one gave you, your gig, Stu. We had to earn it. We had to work, and we had to persevere. And that's what I did. And look at it now. It's all worked out for the good, and doesn't usually happen as fast as you'd like, but it happens. And to that end, I got my job at Fox Sports Southwest. I'm at a golf tournament, UT Golf Club, and my agent, we've been sending tapes up to the GM up at Fox Sports Southwest, John Heike. And John actually happened to play in that tournament. I didn't know this. Someone introduced him to me. And I said, we were going through the food line after the round of golf. And I said, man, I've been sending you my tape, and you ain't looked at my stuff. I've been sending you tapes for 3 months. He said, I promise you, when I get back to Dallas, I'm going to look at your tape, and we're going to bring you up for an audition. True to his word, he did, and boom. They hired me after seeing the tape, man, and I was, just growing from there.
Let me ask you this. Do you have a favorite memory or moment from when you were on radio here in town with, on the zone with whether it was Chad and Kevin or with anybody or, any time you were in front of a microphone on the Austin airwaves?
Well, that moment in Oklahoma, in Dallas, when I said, FOU, that one comes to mind. I'm blaming that on Chad. He seemed to always bring out the worst in me, and that liquor I was drinking while I was working. Man, there were some, what stands out to me more than anything is the type of show that we were able to build. And we were having, as you know this, they bring in, at least they used to bring in all these different consultants, and they want you to do this and that. And even some of your colleagues at times you're working with may want to go a different direction than you want. But I think when it was just me and Chad, and then Kevin came over and joined us, there was some growing pains at first, and everyone had to get used to each other's personality. But what stands out to me the most is that those guys helped me grow, and that's what I look for. Whether it's on the field playing, it's a coach, it's a teammate, it's my colleagues that I work with. I try to reflect on the growth and how they have helped me expand and build my craft. And those are two, Kevin and Chad, man, they did holding me accountable. That's the key. Just like we do in that huddle, in that locker room, you got to hold each other accountable. And Chad would do that, and Kevin would do that. And I learned a lot from those guys, even though I'm much older than them, but they were, especially Chad, he'd been in business for a while. You learn to appreciate it. And so they taught me a bunch in that area.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I learned from them as well. You and I have kind of the same upbringing. We started at the bottom. I started on promo crew and setup crew for game days and stuff, and then kind of just worked my way up and learned something new each time and kind of built myself up. So, and you did the same thing. And I admire you so much for that. It's, it's the textbook way. And the show that you did with Chad and Kevin, it was Chad and Kevin did their contributions, but they let you be you. And that was one of the great things about it. I really love that.
That's a key as well. And we fought for that. I can't tell you how many internal battles there were with, certain program directors who were cool, no hard feelings, but they would want us to go a different direction. And we proved that we were right because we had a pretty successful show. It's great to work with guys who are smart, who are witty, and who want to have fun. And that's what we wanted to do is have fun. I have a good friend who lives in Tyler, man. Every time I see him, he still brings up. We had a segment called Stupid News, and it was Chad's brainchild, and this guy still brings up a particular episode of that. So it resonated with folks, and not to mention all the damn food we would get. That was always great. All the free grub you get working for the radio. So
that's definitely a benefit of radio. You do get some good food sometimes.
And at some point, it ran its course though, and I left the show after 4 years and wanted to do other stuff, and I felt like I'd hit my ceiling there, and then we moved on to Fox Sports Southwest.
Right. And you did some national radio as well. I know.
Yep.
You're doing morning.
Left that job too. I keep leaving radio, man. I did 5 years for CBS Sports Radio, national.
Well, you and I shared some time on Radio Row at, I think it was Super Bowl 48, New York.
Yep,
Radio
that's
Row
right.
So,
you remember that? Yeah.
Absolutely. That was my second Super Bowl. I was still green as well, we'll just say I was still green. How'd you find your way to doing the college football pre-show for CBS? How'd you get that? And you've become one of their main analysts now on CBS Sports.
I was at Fox Sports Southwest, and there's a company called CSTV, a new network that popped up around 2003, and I got wind of it, and I said, well, I can do the Fox stuff on the weekend, and I can go up there during the week and do this weekly show. It's called Inside College Football nowadays, but back then it was called Crystal Ball, and it was every Wednesday. So went up, and I actually auditioned. The same day I was auditioning was the same day as oh my goodness, I'm going nuts. The Heisman Trophy one, the guy who's on Game Day now, Desmond Howard.
Howard.
So Desmond and I auditioned the same day, and it turns out one of the producers, there were 2 guys making a decision, and one of the decision makers was from Michigan, and he was a Michigan grad. And it turns out that he wanted me and the other guy wanted Desmond. So you would think it'd be the other way around. So anyway, I get the gig at College Sports Television, and then of course CBS acquires them, and rest is just working your butt off and being noticed. And about 6-7 years ago, they asked me to I'd done some spot time over on the big SEC show on Saturdays, and then they asked me to be a permanent member, and I'd always thought I should be on that show. You always think you should. Sometimes we think we're better than we are.
Exactly.
But
since high school,
I'll say this. I think I can liven that show up a little bit. That's what I was saying. and so I got my opportunity, man, and we're going on. This will be my 16th year, I believe, at CBS. And my 6th year on the SEC Today show.
So, BJ, what do you do outside of work? I know you do your yoga thing and got your shows going on, but so what is the real BJ do with all the glitz and glamour away?
Dude, I like to sit by the pool, and you're right, get up and do my yoga. I have a sports biz development and marketing company with a Sooner, Kenyon Rashid. Kenyon played back in our day. Todd, you played against Kenyon.
Yep.
Fullback, and,
I remember that. Yep.
Kenyon is a brilliant dude, man. He went and played in the league briefly for the Jets and the Giants. And while he was doing that, he had the sound mind to pay attention to Plan B and work for Oracle and SAP, so all these technology companies. And so we formed, he came and found me actually when I had gone back to UT to complete my degree. And we started hooking up and working on different different business ventures. And so Kenyon and I started a company called Pro Club World Sports, and basically just work with technology companies or any company that's trying to do business in the sports world, whether it's a good and service, whether it's a technology, what have you. We have one client, Prime My Body, hemp oil company, and it's 100% hemp, no THC. You can drink 10 bottles of the stuff and you won't get high. So what we did, we persuaded them into doing a study with former NFL players. And this took place last January and February. January in Dallas, February It was here in South Florida at the Super Bowl in Miami. And so we because all these, I'm sure you guys see all these CBD companies, man, are out there on the market, but none of them have done any robust studies. They have not proven anything scientifically, at least not with players. They'll go hire a high profile name to be the top spokesman or spokesperson for the company, but where's the science behind it? So we did a whole scientific study on this stuff, man, with over 70 guys, and just proved that these guys benefited from a memory standpoint. They were more lucid and more aware after taking just a drop of this product called Focus. So we do things like that, work with clients such as that. We have another client that is in the gaming industry, and they may want certain athletes to come and do a radio tour, which they will sponsor, or things such as that as well. It just runs the gamut, man. And it's been enlightening to me. As I said, Kenyon's savant. He's like those NASCAR drivers. They used to say about the late Dale Earnhardt when they were in those restrictor plate racing that he could see the air, because it's all about drafting. And well, Kenyon's like that, man. He can see stuff like, where the hell did you pull that, man? And everyone else is in the room and trying to catch up. We don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he's such a interesting, smart cat in terms of technology and marrying different solutions to the sports world. So that's what we've been working on. We've been at the table with our alma mater on a couple of things. Everyone, especially now after this COVID pandemic, these athletic programs are looking for ancillary revenue streams. So we got some things we've been working on and suggesting to them. You got the name, image, and likeness now, and how they're going to handle that. Everyone's trying to wrap their arms around, how do we, possibly keep this from getting out of hand. So we got a lot of different things that we're working with currently that are applicable to the collegiate sports world as well as the NFL.
So that being the case, glad you brought it up. So give me your Brian Jones analyst take on this whole NCAA season coming up, as well as, what you think the Horns may or may not be able to do.
Well, it's interesting. It's been essentially a which medical advisory board do you believe? That's been the gist of it. And, of course, you got those who are going to push forward, allow themselves a little bit more time. The SEC and ACC and the Big 12 to try to get a season in or a semblance of a season in. I don't begrudge Larry Scott or Kevin Warren, Pac-12, Big 10 commissioners for making the decision they did. They felt like they were looking out for the best interest of those young men, and that's what they're tasked with doing, young men and women in that regard. So we're still hoping, man. We've started doing our shows at CBS. And we keep seeing these positive tests on campus, and we knew this was going to happen once the students got back on campus. So we're still hoping that it's going to occur. We'll have some games here, but we've already started doing shows. Did 3 Monday, have another one Saturday, and we'll have them all next week as well. So it's here in some form or fashion. They got everyone at their home studios, and they set up studios and everyone's in-house. So it's, of course, a little different doing it in that manner because we have such good chemistry and camaraderie on the set. That's missing somewhat with all the delays and technical issues you have. But it is what it is. Everyone's had to adapt in this climate, and hopefully, we can do it in a safe way and keep on trucking, and there is a season. As far as Texas, man, they have a ton of people coming back. As you guys know, they were decimated with injuries on that defensive side of the ball. I don't know where the hell that performance in that Alamo Bowl came from, but I didn't expect that. So if they could just play anywhere close to on the defensive side of the ball as they did in that game, I'd be happy because they definitely took a lot of steps backwards last season. And once again, due to all those injuries, you got an overhaul of the staff now. You got new OCs, new DCs, and this is your 4th year at the helm. It's got to work. You usually get that much more time after 4 years, and then you've got an overhaul of your staff. So you need to definitely make this work. And I like the team coming back with a veteran quarterback in Ellinger. Keontae Ingram at running back, this stud freshman. Is it Bijan Robinson?
Bijan, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see what the defense is doing with this new scheme from Chris Ash. I'm always a big fan of 4-3 defenses. That's what he's going to bring to the table, and let's hope these guys can stay healthy. And it should be a fun year. They've been recruiting lights out.
Yep.
So this has to be the year. We got to get back to winning 10 games, man. None of this 8-5. So
like Stevie,
your worst year, 8-5. If that. I mean, Alabama, their worst year is 11-2 every year.
Yeah.
That's what Stevie Lee. That's how Stevie Lee when you were there, man. Y'all had double-digit wins every year.
Every year. I think 1 year we won 9 games because we lost a bowl game, but every year is a 10-win season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was expected.
Yeah, they got to get back to that. That's when you're consistently legit, and this could be the impetus for them doing that. So,
but one of the things that the reason we won back then is we had leaderships on the team, right? So it trickled down from you guys, right? So when I got there, it was Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers in my meeting room, right?
Right.
And they still had the DNA from, Todd and you guys from y'all's meeting rooms. And so when y'all went under the stadium and actually went back to Rocky 3, we can still feel that, right? Yeah. We reaped the benefits of that. And so we got back over into Moncrief Newhouse, but we knew that we still had to work, right? And then as we transitioned out, there was a, to be politically correct, some guys came in and that probably was not Texas material. You know what I'm saying?
Which happened.
That, right?
Yeah.
And so, there was Texas material, right? And then it just kind of dwindled down a little bit, and now we're trying to get it back up, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, I agree with that. And to your point, Stevie Lee, when I transferred to UT, there were a lot of guys, and Todd, you attested this, there were a lot of guys, we call them in West Texas riders and eaters. They ride on the Greyhound, eat the chicken fried after the game. That was their only contribution. And there were a lot of guys in Texas that should not have been in Texas, or they were there thinking they were going to win only because they had Texas on their emblazoned on their jersey. But no, you didn't put the work in, and that's why things changed that same year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that one.
You mentioned something, and it reminded me. Are you still a NASCAR fan, Brian?
I don't watch it as much as I once did. I just don't have the time. But I try to keep one eye on it, but not viewing as much as I have done in yesteryear.
Okay. So plan A, you got through college, got to the NFL. Plan B, you're in broadcasting now, analyst. What's plan C?
Yoga.
Woo! Man, when you hit 50, which I did a couple of years ago, as I heard someone say, you measure what and who you give your time to. So y'all lucky. I'm giving y'all my time. No, I'm joking. No, this is pretty cool.
Of course.
You know what, man? We will see. I try not to plan. We got some irons in the fire. Hopefully they'll hit. But I've always been a hustler all my life. That's just in me. And I just do it on different levels now. So there's always something, coming down the pipe that I may partake of, may not. I've got some real estate ventures that are going pretty well, even in this climate. So I just take it as it comes, and some things you may have to add a little elbow grease to, force it a little bit, but the broadcasting stuff is good. As my boss always says, let's just keep fooling them. So they keep asking me back. So as long as we keep fooling them, hopefully they'll have me.
That's half of broadcasting is fooling them, right?
That's
it. No matter where you are.
So my last question, BJ, is this: as brethren from the Shock the Nation tour, do you think our great season ever received the the level of notoriety that it should have, because you and I both know we had a phenomenal group of athletes on both sides of the ball, right?
Yeah, the unfortunate part is the way it ended. It ended in such a crash landing after Miami put that whipping on us. If not for that, even if that game had been just a little bit more competitive, we'd probably garner a hell of a lot more attention, because we turned that thing around, at least for a year.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely turned it around, and we went into that game, I think, ranked number 3 in the nation.
Yep.
And I don't know what the hell happened. I still kick myself about that. I wish I'd started a fight. And Todd, we don't have any offensive guys on this.
No, we don't.
So that played with us. But so I'm gonna put it on them, because defense, we came out and balled as much as we could.
You could, but we were on the field too long.
Oh God!
Everybody was on the field too long on defense. But
That's true.
Yeah, but
I'm not going to blame it. I'm not going to do that to him, BJ, because it's a team effort, right? Come on.
hell no. It look bad, man. No.
That's right.
Oh,
I'm with you, win or tie, but no, man. If that had gone just a tick differently, we would be right up there, mentioned right up there with the greatest that have played at the University of Texas from a team standpoint, because we had a hell of a unit. I don't know how many of us that went on to the pros, but quite a few of us. So
it's you, Chris Samuels,
yeah.
Stanley Richards, Stan Thomas,
Yeah.
Keith and Kerry Cash, Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
So that's, how many is that? That's 8, 10, 8
You
there?
get Stan Thomas?
Yep, Stan Thomas, and you got Hackamack went in for a minute.
No, Hack didn't go, did he? Well, he was the year before us.
Oh, that's right. No, he was before. Who else?
But it was a
Shane
great.
Drenette.
Shane was after us.
Yeah, but still,
Shane
he
was-
went.
Yeah,
But he was still-
he definitely went. And Todd. And
Yep.
I mean,
James Badden,
James
Tommy
Patton
Jeter,
and
Tommy Jeter.
Yeah.
I think next year.
We had a gang of guys. Grady, I think he went, and
Malone, Van Malone.
Mark Berry.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Well,
quite a
I tell
few.
you what, for a kid from small town East Texas, served his country, get that first semester there at UT, you guys made it a hugely memorable semester, and it'll be deep in my heart for forever. So I appreciate it.
It was special, man. It was.
First
of all, go ahead, Stevie.
It was special, and y'all need to understand that when I play, I'm not from I'm not from Texas.
Mhm.
I'm from Louisiana, so I didn't hear anything about Texas football and things like that. But when I got here,
Yeah.
we knew about the Shock the Nation tour. We, as a player,
Mhm.
so y'all need to hang your hat on that. You are one of the special teams at the University of Texas, for sure. So just hang your hat on that, man. It's
We
cool.
appreciate it. I just hate we didn't stick the landing, man. And
Right.
that game, Stan Thomas had to open his damn
Big mouth. He was my
Yeah.
sweet mate, so I know.
fire those guys up, man. But
By the way,
it was a hell of a team, and we had a ton of camaraderie and fun. So I was glad to be a part of not just the team, but turning things around there and winning a conference championship and getting as high in the rankings as we did.
Yeah.
And we
By the way,
revenge. We got Houston, we got OU again, and we finally got A&M. That was a game.
True. That was
Yeah.
a hell of a season. By the way, not to make us all feel old, but we're coming up on 30 years since this beginning of that season.
Oh wow, yeah, it's
So-
here.
We should
Yeah.
get some guys together, BJ. I think I can probably organize about 50% of them.
Let's do that once we get
Organize
past the
that.
COVID stuff. Let's do that this spring, man. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll be there.
All right.
Brian, it's been fun catching up with you. As I said, you're one of my favorite people. You're the guy I love. The few times you and I got to interact here in Austin in the radio business, always enjoyed being around you. I follow your example, and so proud of what you've accomplished in TV. Looking forward to seeing you do your thing and speak the truth there on CBS during college football season this year. So all the best to you. Be well. Brian, do you do social media? If you do, tell
Yeah.
everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter angrily with all these crazy folks. Jonesin for Mo, Jones, the letter N, number 4, MO, at Jonesin for Mo.
All right, there you go.
That's me on Twitter and Instagram. Hey, Stu, I appreciate those kind words, my man. It was always fun working with you. Stevie Lee, good to see you. It's been too long. Remember, big old Stevie was on the team doing his work, and I was sideline reporting. My man Todd Hunt, Big 94 in the hizzy. Appreciate you, dude. Hook 'em, guys.
Hey, Sheila, bro.
That's
right.
right.
Stay safe.
So thanks again for everything. Make sure you follow the show on the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Longhorn Lowdown. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Stu Myrick. Stevie, how do they follow you?
Stevie J. Lee on Twitter and Stevie Lee 65 on Instagram.
And Todd, you're on Instagram at
94.hunt and, of course, on Facebook.
By the way, all of our hearts, we go out to everybody on the coast.
Yeah,
in
man.
the path of Hurricane Laura. Be safe, be well. Everybody be well. Thanks so much for giving us some of your time. Until next time, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.